Today on Hatching for Health.
A stillbirth is something that happens mid-second trimester through 40 weeks. I was in labor for almost 2 days. She did not want to come out. And to be honest, the longer I was in labor, the more I didn't want her to come out because she was still with me. And I knew that once she was delivered and that she was her side, that I only had so much time left with her.
Hi, I'm your host, Jessica Hatch, inspiring hope, spotlighting rare battles, and uniting families. Today we're going to be joined by two guests out of 2 different states around the country, and we're going to be talking about a special book that was written, and the author will be joining us along with the mother that the book was written about, and it relates to stillbirth, so something very sensitive to a lot of people, I'm sure, but we are going to welcome them to the show right now. We have Stephanie out of California, and we have Miss Ashley out of Seattle. How are you guys?
Good.
Well, thank you.
Awesome. So thank you for reaching out. I know via Instagram lately, we've really tried to make a push to connect with, with different families and organizations that are just really, helping others through their storytelling. And what better way than a book? So that was a great opportunity to connect with you. So tell me, does the name of the book, basically it's like a Hawaiian name, Aloha Oi. So tell me first off where that name originated from.
Honestly, I wasn't even planning on writing my 3rd book until, everything happened experience-wise with Ashley. And I used to do professional hula dancing back in the day. And at the end of the shows, we would always sign off saying Aloha Oi, and aloha meaning never goodbye, but until we meet again. And so I've always loved that saying. And then for me, it was just kind of perfect when I started, creating this book and this idea around writing something constructive, but also whimsical and, soft-spoken for siblings that have experienced infant loss. So for instance, like for Ashley, her eldest daughter, Amber, who I love, I'm like crazy Aunt Stephanie. So I'm just very lucky that she's allowed her babies to be my babies too. And like when Amber was going through that as well, she kept thinking it was her fault and not really understanding like why Luna didn't come home. And I'm like, okay, with my hypnotherapy background and my magic, how can I create something to at least open up a safe space for siblings to ask these questions and, kind of give parents guidance in a way to talk about like why their sibling didn't get to come home.
Golly, like you have a beautiful heart, and just even talking to you, like just briefly, I can see how you've been an inspiration to, I'm sure, Ashley and her family. So Ashley, kind of tell us, so you have children, I guess the one that she's speaking of. Tell me a little bit about your family.
Yeah, so I have a daughter who she's almost 8 now, but she was 5 when I got pregnant with Luna in summer of 2020. And when Luna passed away in December 25th, 2020. And so those are my only 2 kiddos.
Okay, so on Christmas Day, wow.
Yeah, so it was kind of crazy. I had gone in for an ultrasound 3 days prior. They just did a 3rd trimester check just to make sure, she was growing okay and that everything was good and everything checked out. They're like, nothing to worry about. We'll see you back in a few weeks. And then Christmas morning, I woke up and she hadn't been moving as much as she normally did. She was a pretty active baby in the morning. But I was just so sidetracked with doing Christmas with Amber and all of that. I was like, I'm probably just not paying attention as much. It wasn't until about 4 o'clock in the afternoon after I had, drank the juice and done everything they tell you to do, where my husband was finally like, you need to call the hospital and we need to go figure this out.
So when were you supposed to be due? Was that, I guess, close to you?
Yeah, I was 33 weeks and 4 days when I found out that Luna passed. So almost to the finish line.
Okay. Yeah. I guess so. In that moment, you know, your husband and you, your little one, everything's been going fine. I mean, what were the doctors, I guess, kind of telling you? Because I mean, it sounded like you had a healthy baby. Like there was no reason for, you know, for the situation to have occurred. Just kind of guide us a little bit from the doctor's point of view on what they were telling you.
Yeah, so actually, they kept telling me they don't have a reason. They don't know why. They've never been able to give me a clear answer other than, I'm sorry, honey, sometimes this just happens. So that's been a challenge in itself, not having a why as to why her heart stopped beating.
Wow. So with this book, I mean, that's something so personal to you. And even, you know, thank you both today for just being vulnerable enough to come on and talk about this, because I mean, that's not very long ago that this even happened. But I guess Stephanie, like in knowing her through, I guess, a working relationship, I mean, how bold are you to, you know, to be able to say, you need to tell your story, and there's a way that this is going to help somebody. So kind of tell me where your perspective is with that, and knowing the situation that there's kind of not an answer, right? But rather just kind of seeking God and kind of, you know, seeking a way to try and understand that moment.
I mean, I think for me, I learned a lot through Ashley and just like wanting to be an advocate for people. Like I never personally experienced infant loss or a miscarriage, but as I was writing the book and even speaking about it, like it's the only book that I've ever published that was never fully finished. Like literally when I told Ashley, okay, we're going to do this, like I want Amber to be a part of it. And in the book, there's even a poem that Amber wrote that's super magical, that I just realized it's such a topic and there's so many different ways a baby can die before it's even born, right? So for me, it was just getting really educated on having a healthy baby is truly a miracle and something to just be really grateful about. But even my own mom told me that she had a miscarriage before me. I had multiple neighbors come, you know, forward and was like, Steph, I love that you're going to talk about this because I actually went through this. And it was just so many close people that I knew that had gone through that I would have never known. And so for me, like my other Instagram is every day is like my birthday. I was just like really torn with like, why aren't babies that are earthside celebrated and still remembered? Like, why does it have to be so awkward? You know, like, and I guess with Ashley learning, I mean, I have a turtle. So I'm like, who am I to like give advice and navigate this? But like, just to try to be a good friend and, you know, find a way to like bring happiness in such a tragic situation that's, you know, really not, it's such like uncharted territory. So I guess for me to like write a book and to help other people, that was my goal. And then a lot of people I think a lot of things that they don't get touched on for the siblings. So like when I would talk to Amber and FaceTime with her, and she was just like, yeah, next time, you know, if mommy does like wants a baby, like how she was talking about it was like, I'm going to protect her. It was my fault. And I was just like, no, it's not your fault. You know, it's nobody's fault. And it is really hard that, you know, in in Ashley's situation, that she didn't have the answers, because me learning through this process, a lot of other mothers who have gone through the stillbirth, there has been answers, you know, of why their baby didn't survive. And so for me, it's also like, why don't we have answers? Like, I didn't even know. Now there's like placenta pathologists. There's so many things that I didn't even know existed, where I'm hoping, you know, with us talking about like our goals with Luna's Light and our book and, you know, Ashley's experience, that this exposure will really start getting traction and people are going to be doing things to figure out the answers and help people like actually going through this.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, you know, without having a distinct, you know, answer, it's really just about, like you said, more light being brought to the situation so that, you know, they can figure out like how to potentially avoid this or have an answer for a mother. I mean, I think that, you know, the way that it makes you feel, it's like you don't know. It's like as a mother, you're a solution provider. You have a child. It's like, that's what you do. We find a solution. And so like not knowing that, you know, I can't imagine the trauma that you guys went through. It sounds like you have a really brave and strong daughter though as well. So she's 8 now. Is that right?
Yeah, she'll be 8 this summer. And yeah, she's incredibly brave. She even brought Stephanie's book to school this year when she was picked for Star of the Week. And it was used as her way to be able to tell her friends about her baby sister. She had tried to talk to her friends about it afterwards, and they just didn't get it. But her being able to bring in that book and then have her teacher read it and have a conversation about it really opened the door for her. And seeing that smile on her face when she came out of school that day, and she was just so proud to, say I got to talk about Luna and I got to show off the book. And it was just a really special moment because she had been struggling with how to talk about it since it happened.
I think that's a beautiful thing. And I don't think it could have gone any other way. I think that it's almost given her something to hang on to as, as a representation of her little sister. This is about my sister, here's her book. We didn't meet her here on earth, but we will, in heaven one day. And the name, I love the name. I don't know Hawaiian, but knowing that means bye for now, but not forever. Is that what you said?
Until we meet again.
Until we meet again. Okay. Yeah, I think that's...
Which is really cool because when I was writing the book, then Ashley and her family went to Hawaii, and part of the book is writing a letter as part of the grieving process and sending it out into the ocean. A lot of the things that the book was written about ended up happening in real life where, Ashley and I would just have these universe moments where we're this is the right thing. We're doing the right thing. We're going to publish it, we're going to get it out there, keep it neutralized. So it could be for, a baby brother or older sister, but also to be able to honor those babies. So there's a portion in the book where when you order it through me, I customize it and I put their name in the book. So that way they're always remembered.
I love that. So we do have to take a quick commercial break, but when we come back, I want to get into, just the detail of family life at this point, in different ways, we can assist in getting that book out there to the world. So we will be right back with you after this quick commercial break.
I remember I wasn't looking at my husband, but he was squeezing my hand. I was just watching the nurses' faces to try and see what was happening. And they got really quiet.
Hey, welcome to Infinity Diagnostic Center and Prestige Medical Pain Clinic. We are right here in the heart of Houston, inside the 610 Loop. We do interventional pain management and we do MRIs. Our MRI facility offers a 1.5 Tesla Siemens magnet. We can do MRIs of the brain, spine, any extremity, foot and ankle. We got you covered. Then we have our pain suite. So our pain suite is for when you do have that pain. You get the MRI and now the doctor can sit and evaluate that MRI with you and look at exactly what's going on. And right here, they'll do an interventional pain injection, ESIs, transforaminal, a various amount. We've got 2 doctors on staff, so we got you covered. Before you actually get set up over here, you're gonna come to our consultation room in which you will be visited with one of the specialists. And we're treating insurance, cash patients, Department of Labor, and personal injury, which is so important. So we can take care of all of those different needs. Just come see us here at Infinity Diagnostics and Prestige Medical Pain Clinic. Welcome back from the commercial break. If you have just joined us, we're actually having a Zoom interview with a young lady from California and a mother from Seattle. We have an author as well as a mother of a stillborn child that we are talking in depth about and just helping to make others feel comfortable to talk about it as well. So you actually have a podcast and recently had Ashley on, is that right? And kind of talked a little bit about her story and just kind of brought it more to life for others to understand.
It was actually one that I had found through Instagram called Emma's Footprints. And I had reached out to them kind of like how I reached out to you, just trying to get our story and our message out there. And we were lucky enough to make it on an episode to share more about Luna and Ash's experience on their platform.
Okay, that makes sense. So I noticed the shirt y'all are wearing, it looks to be like the sonogram picture. Is that of Luna?
Yes, so the moon is actually her side profile. This is literally Luna in the moon.
Okay, and Ashley, you have the same one, just like a littler version there.
A little different, yeah.
Okay.
Her side profile, carrying her around everywhere.
I love that. So tell me, just for a lot of us that don't know, the term stillborn versus a miscarriage, because, you know, this is more of a stillborn situation, being that you're that far along. Is that accurate to say? What is the you know, the months that they include for that?
The technical description would be a miscarriage is from like inception up to like week 22 or 23. I might be a few weeks off on that, but then still a stillbirth is something that happens mid second trimester through 40 weeks.
Okay, I see. So Christmas Day, just kind of take us back. Was that a morning you, like you said, you woke up and it was about, you know, Amber, your other daughter, right? Amber?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So were you guys having family over? Like, I guess just kind of take us back to that moment when you guys, you know, rushed off to the hospital to kind of figure out what's going on.
Yeah. So it was December 2020. So it was right in the middle of COVID when stuff was still shut down. So it actually was just me, Amber, and my husband for Christmas that year. So like my entire attention was on Amber and, you know, just making sure she had a fun day because we didn't get to go see her cousins or her grandparents or anything like that. We had a lot of like FaceTime calls with family and stuff. And so we were just really engrossed and distracted in that all day.
Okay. But you just didn't feel right. You felt like something's going on, and it was your husband that said, you know, let's go. So you actually on Christmas Day went to like the emergency room, or where did you go?
Yeah, so this is so silly when I look back on it. But in the moment I was like, I'm not going to call the hospital on Christmas. Like, no one wants to be bothered on Christmas Day. And then my husband was like, come on, Ash, like, you're going to call and we're going to go. So I was fortunate enough. My mom lived like 3 miles down the street at the time. And she's the world's biggest warrior. So when I told her why we were going, I was very careful about how I said it because I didn't want her anxiety to affect Amber. But then we got in the car and we drove to the hospital. It's only like 5 minutes down the street from where we lived at the time, but it felt like the longest drive ever. I went into the ER entrance because it was Christmas and they were closed. And the nurse who came to meet me and bring me up to the labor and delivery was actually the same nurse that I had every night while I was there. And we're still good friends, which is wonderful. She's a beautiful woman. But yeah, so I went up the elevator to the labor and delivery floor. Everyone was really kind of quiet and awkward with me. They put me in a room, my husband and I in a room, and sat me down with one of the the little hand Dopplers to try and hear the heartbeat. Couldn't hear anything. The nurse was making all kinds of excuses, like, oh, sometimes these things don't work. Let me go get an ultrasound machine. So they went and grabbed the ultrasound machine. She still couldn't find anything. She grabbed a midwife. I remember I wasn't looking at my husband, but he was squeezing my hand, and I was just watching the nurses' faces to try and see what was happening. And they got really quiet, and all of a sudden the midwife shook her head and just said, I'm so sorry, you guys. And at that moment, it literally felt like the floor had dropped out from underneath me and that I was just falling and couldn't stop.
My goodness.
Every time you share this, I feel like it always just tugs on my heartstrings.
I know. You know, and I'm, you know, just speaking, obviously, again, thank you for being so vulnerable, but, you know, at this point, they have to deliver the baby. So did you go through like an epidural? Do they do a C-section? I mean, what happens at that point?
Well, they actually told me, they said, well, you have an option. You can stay and we can start inducing you now, or you can go home and you can come back. So because Amber was with my mom and because it was Christmas, my husband and I decided to go home. So we went home to tell Amber what had happened. I don't think any of us slept that night. We just sat in bed with each other and cried. And then the next day I went back and had to be induced. I was in labor for almost 2 days. She did not want to come out. And to be honest, the longer I was in labor, the more I didn't want her to come out, because she was still with me. And I knew that once she was delivered and that she was Earthside, that I only had so much time left with her. So it was a very bittersweet moment after I had my epidural and she was finally born on the 28th in the afternoon.
Oh.
Having had a child before, when you have that moment and they're out and you hear their cry, and it's just like such this adrenaline like rush and sense of relief. And this was not that experience. It was silent, and it's still very haunting.
It's like an immediate angel, I mean, from a perspective that a lot of people, I'm sure, struggle with no matter what. But it's, I mean, she was an angel before even being born, but the timeline with Christmas and Jesus and all the things, it's like, there's definitely a story, that it's beautiful that you're able to share it for so many that maybe had similar situations or have friends and they don't know how to talk to them. I think it's very, very true about, you want to give condolences, you want to do all these things, but you just don't know how the person's going to react and how am I going to make them feel? Do they want to talk about it? Do they not? So kind of hearing you, I mean, it doesn't make it any easier, but just being able to kind of, talk about it, this is what happened. There's nothing more traumatic in the world that you'll ever go through, Do y'all want to have any other children? Or is that, one in heaven and one here on earth? Or you want to bring another one? Or just kind of curious where your mind's at?
Yeah, what's funny about that question is I had actually told a coworker of mine right before I found out I was pregnant with Luna. She had just found out she was pregnant. And I laughed and I was like, oh, I'm so glad I don't have to do that again, because I had really bad postpartum depression with Amber and was just really scared of having to go through that again. So when I found out that we were having Luna, it was just like a complete and total surprise. And I was just really grateful to be able to go through, happy, scared, but I can do this. Which obviously ended up turning into this whole other cycle of postpartum and grief and all of that, which was way heavier than I could have ever anticipated. So I don't know is the answer to your question. I'm not sure if we will, but.
I think something though to touch on that I admire about you, and that I don't think that a lot of people tend to think about, is after a stillbirth, right? And going through all those emotions and the grief, you still had to be a parent. And just knowing how amazing Amber is, and just she's so empathetic and just a kind human, where I tell Ashley all the time, I don't know how you do it. It's amazing, because to go through all that, still have to go to work, still have to be a parent and a wife and all those things. It's not like the world stops for you just because Luna's heartbeat stopped, and I think that's my goal as an advocate is to help others learn about the trigger words and not just say things happen for a reason. That's horrible, right? Being educated enough to know the verbiage and just to do something rather than doing nothing. For a friend going through that, I got them matching pajama sets. There's no book, right, that tells you exactly what to do for someone going through that. But I think just opening up people's perspective and giving them a different lens, and being more gracious, even about the topic, because I've heard people say that, oh, it's okay, you can try again. You can have another one. You're not a Pez dispenser, it doesn't work like that. And to just have this, grace with, being mindful. I guess that's my more so of a purpose, where I feel like I'm in Ash's life and our friendship has immensely blossomed. She knows all of the things. That's why I'm never leave my life, of just how this has really come to fruition on our message and mission to help be advocates and find the resources. And we're still learning. We're finding other nonprofits and other people that we've connected with that I swear it's like the Kevin Bacon effect and just like trickling in the best of domino effects to just get our message out there in a platform for other women who are going through this. And even the fathers, sometimes we get so caught up in moms going through this that men are already horrible at emotions. Let's be real.
I was just going to ask, with your husband, how is he doing? These few years later, the relationship, already being, mother, father to one, and then, having to go through something like this. How is it on y'all's relationship?
Yeah, so the biggest thing I feel like I learned from this whole experience was that everyone grieves differently. And that could not be truer for my husband and I. He's very shut down, has a hard time talking about it. And then there's me who wants to talk about her all the time. I'm a very quiet person, and I found myself basically just wanting to talk to anyone that would listen to me about Luna. And it changed something in me. And it's not easy. I will say that. But yeah, work through it.
And what is does she have a middle name? Luna, what's her?
Luna Bell was her name.
Oh my gosh, how cute.
Luna Bell is her name, and her middle name was chosen from my husband's grandma, who we just adore. So.
Okay. Well, we do have to wrap it up, but I definitely will, highlight y'all's book as every opportunity we can. For others to purchase it, and probably even have some of our own to buy some of our own to share with guests.
And also on my website, just so you know, because this is another thing that I hope in my long term of a goal is that not every state honors the birth of a stillborn. So meaning that they're not even recognized or acknowledged, you just automatically get a death certificate. So we just learned that Ashley in Washington, they just passed the laws of that now. I think it was 2022, last year. Yeah, that they now acknowledge it. And in Oregon, where I'm from, they still don't. And I think there's still 12 other states that do not give a birth certificate. So I've actually collaborated with an amazing graphic designer that did it. So if you go onto the website, you can actually print out a birth certificate to honor your baby as well.
Oh, I love that. That's a great thing. Yeah, I was wondering that. And I know some, have funerals and, and some just immediately, have prayer. Everyone's so different on what they feel, they want to do at that moment. But having that, as a keepsake is beautiful. And is there just any advice, Ashley, that you want to touch on, just any mothers, fathers listening or even brothers and sisters of a situation like yours, advice you want to give?
Don't be too hard on yourself. And it doesn't get easier, but you do get stronger.
I love it. Awesome. Thank you both. It was a pleasure meeting you, and we'll stay in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you all for tuning in to another episode of Hatching for Help. We'll see you right back here next Saturday.